Today, Superhuman, I have a special guest coming to us from Phoenix, Arizona. Her name is Paige Tonz, and she is, where do I even begin? I'm just going to begin with the fact that labels herself as a girl athlete mentor, and she's also the creator of the Confident Athlete program. So I'm super excited to get to learn more about everything you do, Paige. So thank you so much for being here today.
Yeah, thank you for having me. I'm so excited to chat today.
So you really love working with girl athletes. Tell me about that. Tell me about how you got into, sports and softball specifically.
Yeah, definitely. So I grew up playing softball. So that's where that came from. I started playing from when I was probably like 8 or 9, started playing competitively on like the club and travel teams at 10, and then just continued to play throughout throughout growing up all the way up until I was 18. And my goal and like my big dream was always to play at the college level and to play Division I college softball. And I got to do that, which was really an amazing experience. I got to play college softball at Northwestern University and got my degree there. And with all of the ups and downs from 10 to actually even throughout college, till I was like 21, 22 years old, in between all of those ups and downs, I really kind of struggled with my confidence when it came to being an athlete and playing. And I probably would have never told anybody that like I wasn't confident, but it was like this self-doubt, this like fear of making mistakes, fear of failure, like not living up to my potential, being super hard on myself, all of those things that as I've found out now, is super normal for a lot of athletes. But for me, it was like I could never figure it out, and it was limiting me from really playing to my full potential. And I feel like it was something that held me back. And I was, that typical like I was my own worst enemy, my worst critic, and never really gave myself the credit that I deserved, or like celebrated the strengths and the things that I was really great at, in order to allow myself to believe in myself fully or feel that like true confidence when I was playing. So with all of those experiences going through that, and then of course there was like a fun little gap of trying to figure out what I wanted to do after college, which was a lot of self-development. All of those things kind of combined led me to really wanting to help girl athletes like who I was at one point, learn these different mental training skills and just working on their mindset and actually practicing on their mindset, and just paying attention to their mental game and their confidence, and showing them actually how to build confidence rather than just telling them to be confident. Because I feel like people always, or like coaches or my parents would be like, hey, just like go out there and be confident, or just go out there and believe in yourself. And I was like, oh, like I don't really feel it right now. So I'm really my goal is to show these girls how to actually create confidence for themselves. So that's kind of how I got to where I'm at now. And it started with, working with one girl, I led to another, and then that grew, and then I started a group program. So it's been pretty awesome. Of course, there's been lots of growth and challenges being an entrepreneur as well. And I'm like continuing to have to work on my mindset all the time. But yeah, that's kind of how I've gotten to where I'm at now.
Awesome. Mindset is such a huge proponent of everything. That's what I've definitely learned as a coach, over the many years. And as an athlete, I grew up playing sports. I was all about it. Basketball was my sport, my favorite, but I did play everything. And similar thing, it's like I always tell you to fake it till you make it, or just go out there and, do your best. You're great. And like they fluff you up, they pump you up and they give you all that stuff. But if you've got that underlying self-doubt and we're always our biggest, worst critics. So we're like, you could have played a really good game, but then afterwards you're like, yeah, it wasn't that great.
Yeah.
You know, so it's sort of finding the line between helpful feedback and then
Yeah.
also, you know, it's like you're really pushing yourself down a negative hole. So so what do you find mostly with working with young girls now? Because it's you're trying to find that fine line now, right? It's like
Mhm.
I know you putting yourself back in their shoes, but now you're kind of mirroring back to them as the experienced one. So I mean, what do you how do you sort of tackle that with young girls?
Yeah, definitely. So some of the things that I hear a lot that they're struggling with is like getting past their mistakes.
Mm,
Like kind of like you were saying with your own experience playing basketball is, you know, they tend to focus on, you know, all the things that they did wrong rather than like a lot of the things that they're doing really well, because usually
mm,
it's just like one or two things that don't go well. And there's a bunch of things that they're doing really great. So how to get past mistakes, overcoming failures, that's a big one. That's something that they struggle with a lot. And then the other thing that comes up quite a bit is this like not wanting to let their team down, not wanting to let their parents down or their coaches down. And I'm like, maybe I was selfish or I don't remember, but I really didn't want to let myself down. Like I was like, I was like doing it not for myself, but I mean, I really was like, if I don't do this, like I'm the one that's gonna be frustrated. But there a lot of the girls that I work with and they share that they just really don't want to let their team down, or they don't want to like embarrass themselves in front of their team or their coaches and or even their parents as well. So those are kind of the two biggies that we're working through, trying to helping them get them different tools to work through those things. And then just like the reason I love being in the position that I'm in is because I'm not their coach, I'm not their parent. I'm like this third party that gets to kind of be like kind of like their cheerleader and like their like supporter, but I'm not intertwined in like all of the drama, and I'm not there like, you know, right after the game or during the game, that kind of thing. But I get to be like their mentor and their guide, and I get to relate to where they've been. And I think that's like what makes my like role so special is I get to be like, oh my gosh, like I remember when I felt like that. Or even when I'm going through things today, just, you know, it just looks a little different being an adult compared to a teenager or whatnot. But I'm like, oh my gosh, like I felt like that exact same thing the other day. And just to like be vulnerable with them and show them that even as adults, even as like successful adults, like we're still working through different things, and they're absolutely like not alone. And helping them grow and work through those things is kind of like the really neat part about what my role and what I get to do with them.
mm-hmm. And they're very lucky to have you, because when I'm thinking back to probably when you and I were teenagers, we didn't have access to mentors who wanted to teach us about mindset. We just had access to coaches who develop your skills, and they focus on making you a better athlete. And, you know, and then you get your parents as well, you know, supporting you through that.
Mhm.
So you obviously got to a point where you thought, okay, this isn't going to pursue, like I'm not going to pursue this any further. You know, you were talking about how you discovered in yourself that you were lacking that confidence.
Mhm.
Was that the end of your softball career, or was that afterwards in reflection?
Yeah. So I didn't quite realize how much I was struggling with this stuff until, I mean, like I always knew that it was hard. Like I was frustrated a lot, you know, being hard on myself. But when I got to college and I started playing college, it was almost like, again, I remember actually sharing this on another podcast, and I was like, maybe like it was like kind of like my ego getting in the way when I was in college. Like I really wanted to be remembered. I wanted to like leave some sort of legacy and like do so well on the field that people are like, oh yeah, I remember that girl, like she crushed it, right? So, and that did not happen. That did not happen especially my first 3 years. So in my first 3 years, my freshman, sophomore, and junior year of college is when I struggled the most with the hitting part of the game. Hitting was always more of a struggle than the defensive side of my game. And, anyone that's watched like baseball or softball is like, hitting's one of the hardest things to do in sports. Mm-hmm. So I really struggled with that my first 3 years. Like I hit like awful, and I didn't get like a lot of opportunities because I wasn't performing. Like it was my own fault, even though in the midst of it, I was like, oh, why aren't my coaches giving me opportunities? But it was really just me, which is the hard thing to swallow in the moment. But those first 3 years, I struggled. I didn't get a ton of playing time there, even though I had a starting position on defense. I was a catcher. And it was like just so frustrating. And I just felt like I just was like hitting this wall. And I was like, well, if I just work harder, I'll get better and keep working on the physical part of my game. I'll get better. And it just, nothing was clicking. It wasn't working. Yeah. And it wasn't until my senior year when I started I just remember having some of these thoughts like, dang, like this is my last year to play. I definitely at that point didn't think I was good enough to go play professional or beyond college and things like that. So in my mind, this was my last year to play this game that I had put so much time and energy and effort into and committed my like life to. And I was like, I'm really tired of being frustrated and sad and lots of tears. I just want to like enjoy this last year and have fun. And so because of this like time crunch, rather than like putting more pressure on myself, it was a way for me to be like, you know what, I'm just going to do my best and have fun. Like the phrase, whatever happens, happens. Always, that was like something that I kind of thought of in that last year. And this allowed me to just like take this weight off of my shoulders and just go play and enjoy it. And all of a sudden, when I had that mindset, that shift in mindset that I didn't really even realize was happening when this was all going on, I started hitting so much better. I started playing so much better, and I like doubled my batting average my last year. I tripled the amount of at-bats that I got. So I had so many more opportunities. And I was doing so great. And it came to the end and I was like, dang it. I wish that I would have figured that out earlier. I mean, I feel like we all kind of have some of those experiences like, wow, I wish I would have done that 5 years ago or whatever. But it did teach me a lot. And then I ventured into the real world and actually got into the real estate space, which led me to the entrepreneurship space and the online business, and seeing like that, wow, you could do whatever you really want to, like whatever you set your mind to, whatever you're passionate about, you can create a business or be able to create opportunities out of that. And just being able to like see that there was more than just, what I had learned that I could do after college. All of these kind of little pieces, these little experiences led me to just really be passionate about showing girls what was possible. So that all of that mindset stuff that came with after the self-development and entrepreneur space, and then that shift in mindset that I had my senior year is what kind of created this whole thing.
Yeah.
So I didn't play softball anymore after that, but I did have lots of moments where I was like, man, I could go back and play right now and I'd probably be so much better than I was before, because I have this mindset piece, this like, it's like, like a little secret weapon that I never had before.
Yeah. You've got a confidence and trust in yourself now that you didn't have before.
Yeah.
And even when you drifted back into telling us about that time in your life, you were like, oh, I didn't think that I was good enough to go pro.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah.
and that shift alone, like, I mean, you're already telling yourself that. And then it's so interesting because the pressure that we put on ourselves, and people often ask me, like, when do the nerves go away when it comes to doing something you care about? And I was like, it doesn't, because, stepping up to the plate, playing a game, any sort of sport you endeavor, anything that involves you getting in front of people is nerve-wracking.
Yeah.
And it should be if you care about it. And clearly, because
Right.
it was something that you've been passionate about your whole life, once you finally got to that point where, well, I have nothing to lose now, and I'm just going to have fun and enjoy my final year. And you just went out and you literally crushed it, because you just alleviated like a ton of pressure from yourself. Like, whatever happens, happens. It's just it, and had fun with it. And that is part of, for me, like, having confidence in yourself and your abilities to just go out there and have fun. Would you agree?
Yeah, for sure. 100%. Yeah. And I tell the girls that I work with all the time, like, being nervous isn't a bad thing, right? I think we, like, as a like worldly view, we think that nerves are bad, or that they're not good, or that they're going to like make us do worse at whatever we're doing. And I'm like, nerves are actually they're just telling you that you care about how you show up, and that you've been preparing, you've been working for this, and you feel nerves, and like, those are okay. It's just like, what do we do with them? Like, let's turn them into something good, something useful. It's like fuel kind of that you can use when you're going into whatever it is that you're doing.
Yeah. So is there a piece there to, kind of closing that chapter? Like, you had this realization, I'm not going to pursue this pro, because I can imagine, I mean, I'm a quite a competitive being as well. It's like, you sort of get to that point where you realize, okay, I need to close what I thought I was going to do. And then is there a piece that you sort of pass on in terms of how you dealt with that in yourself? Like realizing, I'm going to have to venture into the real world, as you called it. It's like, are you preparing them for that kind of realization?
So I guess we don't have like a ton of conversations about after college, mostly because I have girls from about 10 to 18. So I have them a little bit before college, although I have a handful of girls now that I was working with when they're 18. Now they're freshmen in college. So I'm starting to work with some more college girls, which I love. But so we'll probably have some more conversations about like what that looks like. But I think that the underlying message that I want them to hear, and that I'm working on them hearing, is that, they can do whatever they want to, right? Like, there's so many possibilities. I actually have guest speakers that come in kind of like a podcast guest to share, and because I want them to see all these different possibilities, these different opportunities, to show them that there's more than just like what's in their little bubble at home. And just whatever they want to do is like, okay, how do you, like, putting together a plan, how do you keep working at those goals and things like that, but also knowing that when there is a roadblock or there is an end to something, that it's a lot of times it leads you down another road. And like, I share my story with them all the time. Like, I didn't do well for a long time, and then I did well, and then it ended, but now it's created where I'm at today. So you just sometimes never know where something's going to lead, but just like trusting that process. And I know trusting the process is really hard in the moment, but like trying to see a bigger picture rather than being so like close to it, and being frustrated in that, and just kind of that trust in the process.
Where do you find that these young girls, so specifically that 10 to 18 age group, because there's a lot of different phrases or phases, should I say, that they're going through in that age bracket? Some think that they've got, a lifetime ahead of them, which they do, they do. But then there are the ones that are in a hurry to grow up, to get up, to show up, to achieve quickly. So
Mhm.
that there would be a varying, mindset. So ones that are like, I need to go now, like I'm going to do 2 hours of training every day, like I'm, maybe not putting as much effort into their schooling because they're like, I'm all in with the sport. So, what would be the balance of advice, for lack of a better word, the balance of advice you would give to that kind of varying mindsets?
Yeah. So, okay, can you go back and share with me what the question is one more time?
That's
I was
probably
like processing.
I gave you so much. I think I gave you too much.
No, that's okay.
Because I was thinking about, how a young girl is trying to be like, okay, do I go all in with the sport, 2 hours of training every day? Like they really make it, like you said, their world, and you're trying to show them that there's more to it. But then there are the ones that are like really serious about it, and that's their biggest passion. So it's kind of finding the line between, yes, it is like your biggest passion and you should invest a lot of time in it, but you also have school and friendships and family.
Got it. Okay. Yeah, that makes sense. I was like, wow, like processing, like, wait, now I forgot the question. Okay. So actually it's funny. This is something I've been talking about in the last week because having a planner, I'm like a total planner nerd. And something that we work a lot on is balance and like your typical like self-care conversations. Because like, for example, I have a girl that plays beach volleyball and she absolutely loves the sport. Like if it was up to her, she would probably just play beach. She would be out there every night. That's what she's really, really focused on. And she wouldn't do anything else, which is amazing, right? Like that's like what we would all love when we're like, we want to be the best at something. But I have to kind of like remind her to think about other things that like bring her joy, or other things to kind of balance a little bit out, because if we're like constantly in one thing and one thing only, that burnout feeling starts to happen. And so that was just something that we worked on with her, is like, okay, what are some other things that are going to allow you to kind of like decompress, to relax, things that like bring you joy. It can even be like little simple things. Like, she's actually at in college right now, and she really likes this spot on campus. It's like super peaceful, and she likes to go there and do some work sometimes, or just like listen, like ride her bike over there and listen to music. And those are the things that she needs for herself in order to like fill her cup up and be like that best version of herself when she shows up to volleyball. So just figuring out balance, making sure. And I think a lot of the girls that I work with, they struggle with like, I'm so stressed out, I'm so overwhelmed, I have so much on my plate. And that's like totally the life of being a student athlete. So we work a lot on balancing out and trying to figure out how to be more productive, how to create space, how to make more space sometimes when you need it, knowing that rest is important as well. And that's the stuff that's going to refuel you for and showing up 100% when you are showing up for your sport or school or whatever it is. So trying to figure out a little bit more like time management skills, but also just like balancing and understanding and being mindful of their time.
Beautiful. And that, it is finding that you got to disconnect from those things and even people that you love sometimes, to sort of recenter yourself, and it only makes you love and show up even greater for what you're endeavoring to do. And so you popped in there that you're a bit of a planning nerd, so that's it's pricked my ears up. Because it's important, and overwhelm is something that, I mean, as students of any age, even women, overwhelm is a thing, because we get so overwhelmed with all of the tasks that we need to do. So is planning, or time management, one of the things that you try to teach to counterbalance that overwhelm, to get things down on paper? Like,
For sure. I'm definitely like paper to pen with them a lot, whether it's
Yeah.
journaling or planner. And I actually, because I love my planner so much, I kind of created a version of like my favorite pieces of planning and my process into a planner for girl athletes. So it's actually called Game Plan, and it's really cool because it has like, you know, your typical like time management, to-do list, priorities, like how are like for them to take more responsibility for their time, but it also incorporates a lot of like my daily mindset practice as well. So like some gratitude, uh, a journaling prompt, affirmations, things like that. So they're getting into habits of doing that, but while using their planner. So I've kind of like intertwined the two, kind of combined the two, because I think having a plan and being good at your time management and being mindful of your time brings you confidence. And I feel like I feel like it's always been a tool that's brought me a lot of success in my life. So I'm like, that's definitely something I want to instill in them. For a long time, it was something I taught in my program, but I've actually kind of, I've taken it out to like really focus on really pinpointing and moving the needle for them to build confidence on and off the field and court and things like that. And then I've actually just came out, it was a little mini course for balancing time, and it comes with the planner. So I've kind of, now they're a little bit separate, but it is something that we talk about and work on a lot.
Well, I agree. It's super important. You know, I love planners. I'm also, I'm all about the game plan. I love the name because the game plan, it speaks to the sports person. You know, it's all about the game plan. You gotta have a game plan. And that's the same way I speak to my clients as well. It's like, all right, if you stick to the plan, then stuff's going to happen because you stick to the plan. Just stick to the plan and things will happen. So I guess what I notice with especially my younger clients is the compliance to do the homework. You know, it's a bit like, do you find that as well?
Yeah. So, I mean, I've constantly worked on like how to create more accountability, getting them to take action and things like that. I mean, it's so hard for me because at the end of the day, I'm like, when they don't do their work or they're not taking action, I'm like, oh, like, how can you not do it? Like, you know how important it is. And I'm kind of like, I'm a rule follower. So like not getting my homework done is like, oh, even if it's not like actually being turned in. So like, I'm like, or like if they don't show up, I'm like, oh my gosh, I just want you to show up so bad. But it's out of, you know, as a coach, a life coach, or whatever we are in this, that's something that's really hard to let go of, is like their personal accountability. So I've tried to set up a lot of different things to keep them accountable, to keep them motivated and inspired, but at the end of the day, it's up to them, right?
True story. You know, and I think a parent listening to this can probably laugh and agree that it's hard enough to get their children to to do their homework and chores and things like that. So it's an ongoing buy-in battle to make them realize, you know, if you do actually do the work and give even just the most minimal time, you will get a really substantial return over the long term. But nonetheless, they'll learn. That's part of the beauty of observing their process, I guess, in their journey.
Totally.
So another point you were talking about, which I think is important, because, you know, teamwork, and you said a lot of them feel like they don't want to let down their team. You know, that's one of their biggest pressures. And I can appreciate that, because, you know, obviously being a team, you want to perform, you want to be able to score and be part of the win, so to speak. So how do you speak to the girls about, you know, alleviating that pressure, realizing, you know, like how to combat that?
So a lot of the work that I do with them is just like some simple like breathing. Like I always tell them, like when I teach them some breathing practices, I'm like, I know it sounds really funny, like we're gonna learn how to breathe today because you know how to breathe, like it's how you've been living this whole time. But as athletes, like being more purposeful and like intentional about our breath, it can be really helpful. We kind of we either have never done it or we don't know how impactful it can be for us. So just like, I mean, even just slowing down as an athlete and taking a second to just take a few deep breaths, rather than speeding up, rushing into something. Because I think that's typically what happens. It's like when we make mistakes or we're feeling pressure, we kind of like rush ourselves, which just makes us usually perform not as great, or like we're playing tense. So just like having the being intentional about just like, okay, I can slow down, being in control, like I can slow down, I can take a few deep breaths, and it's going to help me relax and reset and refocus on whatever I need to do. So that's something that's been really, really helpful for the athletes. And then we do a lot of self-talk practice. So just like what they're saying to themselves, what they're thinking about, and choosing like those more, empowering, strong, confident affirmations, reminding themselves what they're capable, things like that in those moments, rather than going down like the worried thoughts, the fearful thoughts, the what if, I don't succeed, what if this happens, like all the doomsday stuff, right? And turning that more into, well, what if I just take a deep breath? What if I just focus on the things that I can control? What if I remember that I am capable of doing this? I'm prepared for this moment. Like all these good things. And like when you go in thinking that, and you've slowed down, you've taken a deep breath, like you're in so much more control, right? Like we can't control the outcomes or the results, but those are the things that you can control, and you're going to feel so much better and more stable and relaxed and things like that. So that's really how we work on those pressure moments, and like just really wanting to be successful in front of others, and just like performing, right? Performing for our team, and performing so they win and things like that. That's how we really tackled a lot of that. So through those couple breathing, self-talk work.
That's beautiful, Paige. I mean, what you're helping to mold these girls, with it's a whole, it encompasses everything, it's stress management, it's self-love, it's so much value that you're bringing to them, like, and I'm sure that they don't even realize it. Can almost guarantee they don't realize it, but you really are equipping them with such valuable tools, and when you were talking about breathing and being present, it's so important as an athlete, like we talk about the phrase being in the zone, it's like it's being truly present and in the zone with exactly what you're doing, whether it's on the soft field, you're playing softball, you're on the court, you're in the office, you're, wherever you are, being present and breathing and not being stressed and overwhelmed with what you're about to undertake. That's being in the zone. It's being fully focused on what's in front of you and what's ahead. And by teaching them that language as well, it's like, you got this, you can do this.
Yeah.
And it's just, you are really equipping them with so much value. That's just, I mean, I wish I had a Paige when I was a teenager. I say that to my young girls too. I'm like, I wish I had a me when I was your age. Like, you've got no idea how much
right.
But
I know.
So a question that I ask everyone who's been on the show, which is, what does summoning your superhuman mean to you?
I like that. What is summoning your superhero? Okay, so the first thing that comes to mind would be to bet on yourself. Like, so my coach shared that with me a while back ago, especially when I was going through a lot of my own fear and doubt about starting this business and taking it full time and leaving the whole like 9 to 5 world. It was like a really scary leap, which I'm sure a lot of entrepreneurs can relate to. And I just had so much worry and fear of the unknown. And she was just like, you can bet on yourself. Like, who else would you bet on? Like, you have gotten yourself to where you're at now. You've overcome so many different things. You've had a lot of success. Like, who else would you want to bet on other than yourself? And I was like, dang, okay, you're right. I can bet on myself. So when I even like now, like as I go through like some, we're going through ups and downs through owning businesses and things like that. And I just have to remind myself, like, I have done it before. I've figured out things before. And even though this might look different, or maybe I haven't done this thing exactly, like, I know that I will be able to figure it out, whether it's me asking for help, asking for support. But I'm going to bet on myself because I know that I'm an action taker, that I'm going to do whatever it takes to make something work or learn from it or shift or whatever it might be. So betting on yourself, I think, is like summoning my superpower.
Yeah, 100%. I love that. That's definitely, it hasn't been said before. And I think that is exactly what summoning your superhuman is, really. It's betting on yourself and having the confidence in your own superpowers and in your super abilities. And, as you continue to conquer and obstacles that are coming our way, we grow our confidence, but it's in recognizing that we've done it before and we can do it again. And who else are we really going to bet on? Really?
Right.
It's like we're bet on ourselves and we invest in ourselves to become the best version of ourselves.
Yeah, it just made total sense. I was like, at first I was like, wait, what? And then I was like, you're right. Like, why would I bet on somebody else? Like, I would much rather bet on myself than someone else for my own success and for like what I want to do and what I want to accomplish. So that's stuck with me for a very long time now.
Wise words.
Yeah.
Well, I just want to again honor you for everything that you're doing with these young girls. They're very lucky to have you. And I'm sure it brings a lot of joy to your life to be able to do what you do as well. And I want to thank you so much for sharing your story and all the work that you do with us. And obviously, I'm going to pop in how you can get in contact with Paige. Will all be in the show notes, guys. So if you want to find out more, please get in touch with her. And yeah, a big thank you from all of us, Paige.
Absolutely. Thanks so much for having me. I always love getting to chat with people about mindset. We could just like talk for hours and hours about this.
I'm very certain we could. But for now, we'll leave it there. But thank you again.